Welcome back to Hampture. First things first, there's new merch. And since my patrons are dwindling as the end of the month approaches, as typically happens, I'm going to try to make up the difference with some merch sales. And I've got some fucking cool new designs for you. I've got Ratless Shrugged. I've got the Hampture poster in brown, blue, and green. I've got the Make Tunnels poster, which is an alternate view of the city, another artist's rendition. I'll have those all up on the screen for you to peruse. Consider picking one up to support the project, because that's a responsible, grown-up use of your money. What's wrong with your brain? I'm a little kitty and I don't know shit. No, 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 no. I don't know what your problem is. On this exciting episode, we're going to put this sumbitch in the bathtub, much to the confusion and alarm of my roommate, no doubt. And we're going to... Oh. Hello. Oh. What? Alright. I guess I'm cuddling a cat now. She'll be done in maybe 30 to 45 minutes, and then I can get up again. I'll really have to pee by then, but you know, that's having a cat. Anyways, besides water testing Megahab and the Tunnle connection system, more importantly, we're also going to have a look at my custom e-bike as requested by a number of viewers. Okay, so the number one thing you guys wanted to see last time was the tube system and purging in action. Not sure how well this is actually going to work. I guess we're gonna fucking find out. Right now both gates are closed. I couldn't fill it enough to get it above the level of this habitat. It's too tall. The tunnel is flooded. Going to connect both of these. Then I'm going to pull the skirts a little bit so that it forms a seal. You don't need that much, it just needs to barely touch it. Here we go. There has been a little bit of flooding in this habitat because I tried it before I started filming and got it wrong once or twice. I don't really know if this is the solution after all. I think so. It can be done. It's just not as safe as it would be if I had detachable unions, which I'm thinking I'm gonna now go and buy off Amazon because that's really what's needed here. As you can see, air is now filling the tunnel. It's leaking out here though is the problem. This was the issue last time as well. In order to purge the water, I need there to be a good enough seal that it pushes it out the bottom hole. instead of bubbling out one end or the other. I need a better seal at both ends, basically, than I currently have. This is happening, I think, because there's these ribs that make the seal imperfect. It almost works. If I force it down, I can make it kind of work, and the bubble will grow and grow and grow. God damn it. It's so close. It's kind of working. The bubble is growing. If I'm down there with a snorkel, I'm not going to want to sit here doing this for several minutes. I don't know how close you can get, how closely you can see. It is purging the water just very slowly because most of the air is leaking out one end. It's not where the rubber meets the tube that's the problem. It's where the rubber skirts meet the gate valves. It's almost working. Oh, there it goes. Now it's bubbling out the other end. That's is that an improvement? It's about halfway down now. I don't know if you can see, the water has gone out of this end of the tube. It's about halfway down the other end. It's so close to working the way I want it to. It just takes a lot of air pressure to push water out. It's about down to the last quarter. If it doesn't leak out one end, it leaks out the other. This is so frustrating. Okay, it's decided then. I definitely need detachable junctions for this to work. Minor setback. That's okay. We always knew there were going to be challenges along the way. We'll get there. I think there are two ways to interpret this, and they're not mutually exclusive. One is that we need more watertight connection points, the detachable unions, which I'm definitely going to buy and try out. The other is that we need a greater source of air pressure to push the water out, which would mean like a bottle of compressed air, like a scuba tank or something. I think either one of those or both of them together will solve this issue. In the meantime, the reason that you saw plastic shavings in the habitat last time is because this thing ran out of batteries and then I couldn't find its charger. Because I'm a big dumb idiot who doesn't follow his own advice and buy only USB chargeable things. But I got this a while ago, so I replaced it with this bad boy, which is USB chargeable and runs off a single 18650 in the handle, which I can replace with some trouble. It's not user accessible unless you get the screwdriver out. But really should have done that to begin with. I can learn though. I'm teachable, it turns out. I mean, how nuts is it that I can charge a vacuum from a power bank? Extremely nuts is the answer to that question. That's not what I came out here to show you though. This is the e-bike I got some questions about, so I'm going to do a video on it since I'm waiting for parts in the mail and can't really do a big video until I get those parts. There's a charging cable with zip ties that has 2 plugs on the end, and I'll explain why in a minute. Look at that beast. I love e-bikes. It feels like cheating because it is. Now, back when I lived in Florida, I used to import crates of e-bike parts from China, assemble them in my living room, and then sell them for cash to locals, mostly elderly people, at a steep markup. But at the time they were a novelty, and I was selling them for cheaper than you could buy them new anyways. It was a great deal. It was untaxable. It was all under the table. It didn't work when I got back to my state because everybody here already has an e-bike if they want one, and those who don't want one never want to buy one because they consider it cheating. But that's what I like about it. Driving those cheapo e-bikes that I was putting together in Florida though really made me want something more substantial because they never quite have the battery life you want. That was where I learned to hate lead-acid batteries because those e-bikes ran on lead-acid batteries. Little 24-volt packs that consisted of basically 2 motorcycle starter batteries that would get you maybe 8 miles per pack when they're brand new, and you could attach 2 packs to the bike, so that was 16 miles, usually more like 12. And that was enough for my needs at the time, but it was underwhelming. It deflated my penis, let's just put it that way, and I wanted more. So when I had the money for the first time in my life to build a really bitchin' e-bike when the crypto boom happened in 2017, I really went all out. I ordered a custom enduro frame, Magic Pi version 5 motor, which has the controller built in and has regen braking. There's no chain on it. I don't pedal. I'm not going to bother with that. There's a digital LED persistence of vision display on the front wheel, which I've never gotten to work right because it's designed for a thinner fork and it has to have a magnet to trigger the LEDs. I just left it on there. Stickers, which make it go faster, obviously. There's some interesting stuff up here. I've installed aftermarket heated grips that run off of the accessories battery, which I'll tell you about in a minute. That was what the second plug was for. The main one goes into here. This was not standard on the frame. I drilled a hole for this. This is an outdoor female power plug that I thought would be perfect for an e-bike because I've installed the charger inside the bike, so I don't have to carry it with me. It's already in there. I just plug an extension cord into this, which means anywhere I go that I have an extension cord and a power outlet, I can charge this thing. And I do avail myself of that free power quite frequently, and nobody really cares. I mean, if you look at ankle height in most cities, at the base of trees, there are power outlets for powering the Christmas lights in wintertime. And that's what the homeless people charge their cell phones from, but you can also charge an e-bike if you chain up there. But the accessories battery, which I'll show you, I'm going to open this up shortly, is just a 4-cell power bank to run like amenities. It runs the heated grips in wintertime. It runs the tail light, which also has turn signals and laser guides that it shoots onto the ground. It also runs this, which is a inductive charging phone mount that I made. They didn't sell any at the time that I built this, So I just got a regular one, and I super glued the inductive charging coil from one of those inductive charging mats onto it, powered from the accessories battery, which I can turn on and off, so that because the power bank will shut down if you draw too much power from it, I have to sometimes choose which of the 3 things I want to run off of it at a time. I have the headlight, which is 18650 powered, of course. You know me. And I kept it separate from everything else because it didn't. I forget to turn it off frequently enough that I didn't want it to drain even the accessories battery, which I think is what it would run off of if I was going to tie it into anything, because I don't think I would want to tie it into the main battery. That would require a very expensive step-down converter to get the voltage. It's got a fucking cup holder, because you need a cup holder if you're cruising around. I cruise all the fuck around town on this thing. The stickers are mostly cyberpunk shit, and Nikola Tesla, and Uzumaki. You know, the standard. What else? Oh, this thing I bought actually after I found an injured bat on a biking trail, and I had nothing to carry it in. And I got it home in a Tupperware container that I had to bring from home, so it lengthened the trip, and the bat wound up not making it. I got it to the Audubon Society alive, but it died 3 days later. And I told myself, if I had a way to transport it, the trip would have been shorter, and I would have gotten that little guy to the Audubon Society faster, and he might have lived. So I bought this thing, and inside are rubber gloves for handling animals that might be a biohazard. And this pump, which is a bicycle tire pump, but it's designed specially to run off of the bike's own battery pack. So if I get a flat somewhere, because I have self-sealing tubes, I can just wait a couple minutes and then open the side of the bike up, take the lead out from the battery, plug it into this compressor, and use the compressor to refill the tube. As you can see, it's very tight in there. Giggity. There's the charger. I could have opted for a faster charger, but I wanted this to last. And since this is not a liquid-cooled battery, it's better to charge it more slowly so you generate as little heat as possible. This is the power bank, which supplies accessories power. Can't really see, but there's the socket on the other side of the bike that the charger is connected to. This is in a cushioned bag for insulation from both extreme heat and extreme cold. It's cushioned here too, so it doesn't, rupture a cell against the frame or something. It's important to mount these correctly. A lot of them just weld a steel box in here for the battery pack, and that's not really adequate because it's going to move around in there a little bit. And even if it doesn't, there's really no insulation from shock. And as you can tell, I went all out with the shock absorbers on this thing. This is a downhill frame. You can build e-bikes without any shock absorbers at all if you want to. It's just not a wise thing to do. You really want to maximize the cushioning when you have a giant heavy battery like this. Oh, I almost forgot. I did install a relay. It's not an ignition because you're not igniting anything. You can see the lights on the handlebar going on and off. That's not much of a range meter. It just says full, you're in trouble, and you're fucked, basically. The 3 colors, universal language. I don't really need a range meter. You saw the size of the battery on this sumbitch. It's 1.1 kilowatt hours, which is about 50 miles, and that's more than I'll ever do in a day. They make battery packs for this specific frame that are exactly the shape of the interior. They're 3 kilowatt hours. And 50 miles is a conservative range. These things are sold with a range estimate of 100 plus miles. You'll never get that much. 50 miles is like the bare minimum. It's more like 70 or 80. So if you multiply that by 3 and subtract a little for the additional weight, you're looking at least 160, 170 miles for a 3 kilowatt hour battery. And that's such huge overkill for a bicycle that it's absurd. But even 50 miles is so much that I don't need to keep track of my range at all. I mean, when I start to see the yellow light, I know I still have at least like 20 miles left, so it's just not a big deal. And of course, this is the Hampture capsule. The ride is a little too rough, so I've put it in there only to take pictures. I don't really ride around with him in there too often. But it's a nice conversation piece for people who don't know you well. Maybe I'll cover the scooter at some point. There's just not much to tell because it's not custom except for the firmware, which I hacked to increase the top speed from 12 miles an hour to 20, and also reduce the speed you need to get it up to before the throttle will respond to almost 0. The nice thing is that if you buy this add-on here for the neck, it'll fold down and I can fit it in the back seat or the cargo container of my car, and I can charge it from the car because I have an inverter that plugs into one of the 12 volt things. I have 2 inverters, so I can charge it while I'm driving. And when I get to the campsite, I'm not that lazy of a bastard, so I wouldn't use it just to get around the campsite all the time. But if I'm carrying water, for example, for the heated shower thing, I would schlep it on that flat surface instead of, carrying it. Anyway, that's all for this time. Mad Scientist, signing off.